Show.
Lone Wolf Show.
That was sexy.
Live and in action. Lone Wolf Show with Belladonna Laveau. How are you doing, Miss Laveau? Is it okay to call you Miss Laveau, or do you rather me call you Belladonna?
You can just call me Bella.
Bella.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks
Yeah,
for inviting me.
it sure is. So, where are you at? You're out in Washington.
So I'm in Washington at the Mother Church. The Mother Church is nestled in this little caldera of mountains right across from a river. We've got a little dirt road, and then there's a river, and then there's the Mother Church. We have a nice stone circle, and it's beautiful up here.
Now you said the Mother Church. I mean, the Mother Church of what is it called? What is it called?
The
The
Aquarian
ATC?
Tabernacle Church. Yep,
The
the Aquarian
Aquarium.
Tabernacle Church.
Okay. The Aquarian Tabernacle Church. Okay, where does that name come from?
Well, so Pete Pathfinder Davis was our founder. He founded the church in 1979, and that was back in the day when there was a phone book. And one of the usual practices of Yellow Pages is to have your church start or your business start with the letter A, so they'd be first in the phone book. And so he felt like Aquarian Tabernacle Church would, it was hoodie guru enough to sound like it was, coming in the new age of Aquarius, but it also would not upset the Christians when he introduced himself. Pete felt like it was important for us to mainstream enough to be able to get the civil rights that other churches had. He was a real big activist. And so he fought for us to have 501c3s. And the Aquarian Tabernacle Church is actually the only pagan organization that has an umbrella group exemption, which allows us to legally form other charities, institutions, and religious organizations underneath our umbrella. So before the Aquarian Tabernacle Church came around, it was really difficult to get a 501c3 if you were pagan. Like they would deny you and deny you and deny you because, even though freedom of religion in America is a thing, there's still people that are running these offices that have their own ideas about what you can and can't do. And so he fought and fought and fought, and it took 3 years and binders worth of copies that he sent to the government before he could get the 501c3. And then it was a Hindu lady that approved it. And so then he went for the group organization. And now it's really difficult to get another group exemption, but they've made it a lot easier for pagans to just get their 501c3s, because if they all have to go through us, it kind of makes us a mega organization, and they don't want to do that. So now they just more likely to approve pagan churches, which is good for paganism.
So you mentioned 501(c). Is there pros and cons to having that particular classification? With what is it with, like, the government? Is it state? Is it federal?
So a 501c3 organization is a government it's a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit organization. And there are pros and cons to it. Some of the pros are you get to have donations to your organization that are tax exempt. You're tax exempt. One of the cons is that you can't raise money for individuals. Like, I can't raise money for this person to get their electricity bill paid, or I can't raise money for me personally because I run a 501c3. There are benefits, but also it's really important as a religious organization such as Wicca or Druids or anything like that we have legal representation. Otherwise, we go out and try to have religious ceremonies and the cops come and shut us down, which is what used to happen in the 80s and 90s. I don't know if it really happens as much anymore. I know that in Arkansas, they still have a lot of trouble. Some of the southern states still have a lot of trouble, but paganism has become more and more accepted because we have the legal exemptions and the churches that stand there. Like we have a seminary, wiccanseminary.edu, and because Wiccan Seminary exists and it's a state authorized degree granting agency. We have to reapply every 2 years. Because that seminary exists, all pagans are allowed to have reverend in front of their name if they've earned that in their tradition. But before that existed, when you would like go on television and say, I'm Reverend so and so, and you're pagan, they didn't have to honor that because we didn't have a pagan seminary anywhere, which is why Pete created the seminary.
Mhm.
We had an issue with an Arkansas Reverend, Terry Riley, got in a whole bunch of hot water, and he ended up on talk shows like Maury Povich or something like that. I don't remember the exact talk show, but they had all these other reverends, and then they had self-proclaimed witch Terry Riley, and Terry was like, I'm a reverend, why can't we have that in front of my name? And they said, because you don't have a seminary. So Pete created the seminary for that, and now it's a really thriving school. We've been doing it for quite a while now, and it's a thing, but it was created to give us equal rights. Pete was a civil rights activist.
And definitely a good one.
Yeah.
So ATC is a 501c church, and it's a Wiccan church, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Which leads me to my next question. What tradition of Wicca is the church correspond with?
So that's a really good one. Because the Mother Church has the group umbrella exemption, we have approved traditions within the church. But the Aquarian Tabernacle Church itself is not a tradition. We are an organizing, facilitating body. We're not a governing body. We don't tell people who they can and can't be, what they can and can't worship and stuff like that. We don't have, you have to be this kind of pagan. We more provide big church resources for little small congregations, because covens are often, 5, 13 people. They're starting to get bigger now, but that's not the traditional way. And a lot of them are still 3, 5 people. So we have approved traditions, and if you're an approved tradition, and you have a reference, then it's pretty easy to get in and be an affiliate.
So is the inner circle of ATC considered Gardnerian, Alexandrian, or are they more traditional?
British traditional usually. So our queen mom is Janet Farah. She's my upline, but I come from the Gardnerian side. She founded a Gardnerian coven way back in the day, and I come from that line. But we really, like, you can be so Corellian tradition is approved, Druids, all of the British traditionals. There's a fairy. There's not a lot that aren't approved traditions. It's like I think Draconian is not an approved tradition, and so it's pretty open because it's designed to provide our religion legality. It's not designed to control religious ideology or theology. It's designed to get us equal rights.
Which is seems to be really big in the age of Aquarius.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Yeah.
So how did you get started on your spiritual path?
Well, I was raised Mormon, and I was always really close to God. Like I started talking to God when I was 5. I thought everybody could do it. And when I got to be around 14, I just couldn't live the religion, and that caused a lot of guilt. And so by the time I was in my early 20s and being forced to have my boyfriend baptized and then forced into marriage because we were living together and stuff like that, I was like, I'm done with this. And I broke away from the church, and I met a man who was a witch, and he helped me, and he taught me a lot of wonderful things. And then he initiated me and trained me. And I, I revere his existence. He's a pretty amazing man. And then he was a Brit, though. Like, he came over, he had the accent, he was British, he's from Manchester, and we lost contact. And that was back in the day when we didn't have internet and we didn't have cell phones. And so we lost contact because he was an immigrant, and the immigration laws and stuff like that. And then I lived my life, and one day I ran into Pete. I continued to practice and continued to, circle with people and stuff like that. And then one day I met Pete. He actually called me and was like, "You sound a lot like us. Why don't you give me a call and let's talk?" And I felt like I had found my home. I felt like I got lost in Walmart by my daddy one day, and then my uncle found me like 15, 20 years later. And so Pete was just so charismatic and personable while being brilliant. They called him the man with the steel spine. I mean, like, if Pete said do it this way and you did it this way, you would win whatever challenge you had. And if you didn't, then results varied, right? But he was also super sweet and personable and fun, and I just loved him. And I wanted to be of greater service to the community. And so he put me in charge of his school, which was really cool because I was running a school in Georgia called Wise Seminary. And I have a curriculum that I wrote, and I founded the Wise tradition, which is really close to Gardnerian, but it's got a lot of metaphysical qualities in it, because I believe that if you don't raise your consciousness, then you're just using a skill saw without a guard on it, and you cut your head off, casting without having raised your vibration. And he put me in charge of his school, and I did that for, I guess, 5 years. And then he said he was going to make me archpriestess. I trained to be archpriestess for a decade, and then I was installed in 2012. He passed in 2014.
That's a long time in training. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It takes a lot of you got to learn all about government and laws and leadership and how to let people be who they are, not try to tell people how to be. Just love them where they're at and empower them. And that it takes getting over yourself, so it takes a while.
Lots of shadow work.
lot of shadow work.
So Cyberfunk Disco Punk, in the comment section, he said, "I see. Traditionally, Wiccan covens are secretive. It often goes against the tradition to share info of practicing Wiccans with folks you do not know." Would you agree or disagree with that, with his comment?
I agree that there are some things within coven traditions that are only for your inner circle, but we don't. Like I said, the Mother Church isn't. We do have a coven that runs the Mother Church, and we have a group of people that serve the archpriesthood, and we operate as a coven, and we don't share inner secrets like that. But for the most part, how to draw a star in the air, how to cast circle, all those kinds of things, you can find those on the internet. Like the cover's already been blown on all that stuff way back in the day when Janet Farah and Janet and Stuart put out their books, right? Which I guess is kind of, so I'm living up to my bloodline, I guess, but we don't teach coven secrets. We teach the sciences at the school. We teach the sciences that our religion is made up: mythology, theology, how to cast and call, things like that, but not coven secrets.
So if somebody was interested in, let's say, to join your church, what would be the process for that?
So you go to atcwicca.com, and all the way to the right, there's this little menu tab that says join, and you can fill out the database information and hit join, and you're a member. Or you can just say, I'm a member of the ATC. It's not a difficult process to join the church. You can just start coming to events, start donating your time, talent, treasure, just be a part of it. We're not exclusive. Now, if you want to be somebody's personal student, if you want to initiate or something like that, well, no, that's a different story. You have to find somebody. And I don't take personal students anymore because I'm too busy helping leaders lead their groups. And I just don't have the time, attention, and energy to put into individuals like that anymore. And I've done it a lot. So, I'm just trying to help the leaders. But there are plenty of people out there that have openings for students, and you can connect with them through the school or through the church and approach them, form a relationship, and maybe they'll accept you as a formal student.
Brilliant, brilliant. For the people that are viewing, that are watching the broadcast, and in the comment section, if you have any questions for Miss Belladonna Laveau, please feel free to ask, and we can discuss those. Also, COVID, big bummer. Been a couple years down, I think. What kind of functions have been happening in Washington at the church during COVID?
Well, okay, so I'm a Navy veteran and I'm trained in pandemic medicine. So when the pandemic came, I was like, oh my gosh, if everybody will just go home for 6 weeks, this will go away. But they didn't do that. So I was watching the pandemic with rapt attention. And because we have an online college, we already had all the tools installed. That's my dog. I have a golden retriever. She's the oldest person in the house. So she kind of gets to do whatever she wants to do. So we already had all of the online equipment to just transfer to online. And so that's what we did. And we have online Sabbats and rituals and activities, a lot of socialization, Spring Mysteries Festival, which is our iconic festival. This is the 37th year that it's been running. We shifted it to online. Hecate Sickle Festival is supposed to be in person this year. We have reserved the park. So that's exciting, but we haven't done anything other than maybe the coven getting together, just the vaccinated people. See, I have COPD and I am high risk. So we can't risk me dying because we don't have anybody take my place. We have to take care of me and make sure that the church goes on. We have to protect the paperwork. That's the important part,
Yeah, we can't risk anybody in the pagan community dying or anybody outside of the pagan community dying.
Yeah, so we've been careful.
So as far as the ATC goes, do you feel like COVID is going to be lifted and there's going to be a lot more festivals and more ability for the country to open up? Because from what I feel that the country is opening up, and I think this spring and summer is going to be a little bit more live. Do you feel that way too?
Yes. Well, so in 2018, I did a thing called the World Love Tour, where I went around and gave a message from Demeter that there was some kind of calamity that was going to happen in a year and a half, and we all needed to be safe and live through it, and that there was big changes coming to the planet. And I feel like this is the end of the worst of it. And now we're moving into endemic stage where we're learning how to live with it. They've got really good medicines now. The vaccines are working for the most part. Like, very small percentage of people get sick and die if they're vaccinated. And so, yes, I think that we're getting through the worst of it and we're going to start being live again. I have opportunity to go to Florida in the summer at a summer festival. I'm super excited about that one. And I have an event coming up here at the end of March for work that I'm going to go do that I'm excited about. So yeah, it looks like we're going to be able to be out in public. And up in Washington, we all wear masks. I mean, like, we're a big scientific community. We believe in science, and it's the nerd capital of the world. This is where all of the games come from. So we're pretty safe up here.
So you mentioned early in the interview that you wrote some curriculum. Have you ever published any of that curriculum?
Yes, I have. I have 3 books published. The first one's Awakening Spirit, and then Accelerated Wicca and Between the Worlds are republished out of that book specifically for the school textbooks, because Accelerated Wicca and Between the Worlds are the first 2. It's Wicca 101 and Ritual 101. So yeah, and Accelerated Wicca is really about how to think like a witch, the theology, the lay of the land, and how to be more magically minded. And then Between the Worlds is more about how you cast and call, but in depth, like why you draw the star this way, why these words are important, how you ground and move your energy and all of that kind of stuff to cast sacred space, and all of the different things, how to invoke, how to direct your energy, all that kind of stuff.
Very cool. So you've written the books of the curriculum for your church. Is that only one book, or is that all? Is that all of them, or do you have more than one publication?
Awakening Spirit is like the whole first book that I wrote, and then we took pieces out of it and made classes for the school. But it's a full college curriculum. My classes are just 2 of the freshman classes. We have Wiccan law and Wiccan history, and all kind of like sacred dance and genealogy, all kinds of stuff. It's a full college curriculum with electives and the whole 9 yards. I haven't written all of the curriculum, just some of it.
You mentioned Wiccan history. May I ask a question about Wiccan history? Okay. Was Dorothy Clutterbuck fact or fiction?
Oh, now see, I'm not the history teacher. And I don't know. But what I will tell you about all of that stuff is that I do not believe that Wicca is a continuation of something that started in caveman times. I believe that Wicca was created in the 50s by Gardner, and that he was taught by Aleister Crowley, and I also believe that Aleister Crowley played a game on him with Earth in the North, because I practice with air in the North, because astrology is 5,000 years old, and the stars have air in the North and Earth in the East. So that's how I practice. That's part of the wise tradition. But I don't know what Dorothy Clutterbuck and all of that kind of stuff, and I don't really care, because to me, Wicca is the computer and the cubicle within which I jack into the universe, and it works for me. So I don't care what its history was, because I'm deciphering the universe right now, and I use Wicca as a construct. And if Wicca didn't work as a construct, I would use some other method, because I also practice yoga and other things like that. And I believe that all religions are true in the heart of the worshiper, and that the dogma just gets in the way sometimes of being able to connect with God. And God and Goddess are trying to reach out to us. And if you reach out to them, they're going to make that connection with you, and it doesn't really matter what form you use.
Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. So I've noticed that you're openly with the goddess Demeter. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm the Hierophant of the Great Mother.
Okay. I mean no disrespect at all, but I have to ask this question. Are you the embodiment and personification of that goddess on Earth?
So in the Eleusinian mysteries, we have vessels that personify deity. And I have been a vessel of Demeter. I do not consider myself, I'm the vessel of Athena this year. So I am I'm the dress that she wears when she wants to be on the planet. She shows up way less than Demeter. When I was Demeter, Demeter was here all the time. But I do represent Demeter as a voice for her, and I'm her hierophant, so she works through me, and I hold her mysteries, which are the restored mysteries from ancient Egypt. I mean, ancient Greece, not Egypt, Greece, where they had Eleusis. Do you know about Eleusis? They had it was
I've read about Eleusis in just the Llewellynisms of literature. Yeah.
Okay, so Eleusis was the city that Demeter had built for her to share her mysteries and to civilize mankind. And there was the original pilgrimage, you know, like Mecca's a pilgrimage, and it was the original pilgrimage. Then it was stolen and taken to Rome because it became a huge political power. So it was stolen and taken to Rome, and Rome wanted that power, and then they stopped doing the Eleusinian mysteries and they turned it into Christianity and Constantinople and all that kind of stuff, right? The Council of Nicaea. And so now they have the Holy City is in Rome and it's Catholic, right? So the mysteries were lost from the earth for a while. Well, in 37 years ago, we restored the mysteries, and they kind of started out, you know, piecing it together a little bit. Over 37 years of listening to Demeter and her giving us a little bit more every year, we have restored the mysteries as close as we possibly can to the original while still fitting into the modern day. And she tells us that the reason that the mysteries are so important is because they help us understand a spiritual life where, like in Egypt, it was a theocracy. Everything that they did was a ritual. Everything that they did was a spiritual, bathing, all of it, right? Well, we've lost all those rituals, and Demeter wants us to have them back because she says that the reason the earth is so out of balance and chaotic and everything is broken is because we don't have that anymore. And that America was originally created on Western world principles so that we could have that kind of a sacred existence, but in a democratic style. What the founding fathers tried to do was give us, that's why all our buildings look Greek, all our, you know, columns and stuff like that in the government, is that they tried to give us that ideology of the perfect existence that they had at Eleusis. You know about how the founding fathers, they were all Masons or whatever, and they came here for religious freedom. And, you know, the history books would try to get you to believe that it was Christianity, but they were actually a bunch of pagans. That's why there's pyramid on our money and stuff like that, right? So history continues to be erased to benefit the people that are in power. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, if you listen and you pray and you ask, the gods will tell you. But it takes a lot of devotion to get through your own, you know, how do I pay my bills kind of stuff, to where you get to the meat of what they want you to know. So I'm a zealot. Like I pray all the time. Like I'm just, you know, connected with Demeter, and I'm not, like, I also work with Aphrodite, and Hecate is actually the patron goddess of our church. I work with Persephone a lot, and I've been the vessel of Hera, but I do not proclaim to be the Demeter, the incarnation of Demeter on earth that moves from vessel to vessel. I am her hierophant. Does that answer your question?
Sure. That's a great answer. But now I'm just more fascinated with the whole conversation. You said that you are Demeter's hierophant. But you also said something that you are not her reincarnation. So that does that mean that that a reincarnated body actually exists that is Demeter's, soul that actually exists on the planet right now?
What I said was the incarnation.
Okay.
I do not claim to be an incarnated God.
Right.
That's what I said. But I do believe that the gods of Eleusis that I serve incarnate into bodies in order to share their mysteries. And that happens at Spring Mysteries Festival, which happens every Easter, Easter weekend every year. And we provide vessels for them to incarnate into.
Hmm.
I think if you try to be an incarnated deity, that I just don't. I think it burns the body up.
Hmm.
I think it burns you up. Like I've seen people who are like, I'm the incarnated being, this, that, and you're like, okay, not really sure. I've never met anybody who I felt like was always a deity, but I have met people who work with like Dionysus or Isis, and they very much hold that energy when that deity wants to come forth.
Mm-hmm. Very, very
But
cool. So, in conversation, you mentioned a couple things about drawing stars, and that just it kind of reminds me of a lot of components maybe from ceremonial magic. Would you say that your church kind of embraces a lot of ceremonial magic techniques?
I think some people do. I was trained by a ceremonial magician, so I don't know the difference between Wicca without it. So I'm not really sure where the line is drawn. But drawing stars in the air for casting and calling is what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people do the lesser banishing pentagram and all of that kind of stuff. I don't particularly, because when my teacher was like, I'm a Kabbalist, I was like, don't really want to learn that. It's too Abrahamic for me. Can we just stick with Wicca? So I don't know where the line is, to be just flat out honest. But I think that paganism as a whole is a hodgepodge of a lot of things, of whatever works for people, and that everybody believes something just a little bit different.
So where can people buy your books at?
So you can get the store.atcwicca.org.
Okay, so right from the churches, you can get them right from the church website.
Yeah, I think you can also find them on Amazon.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's if you look up Belladonna Laveau, you can find them. You can also buy them off of belladonnalaveau.com. And yeah, but ATC Wicca has most of our stuff, and that's easy to remember and spell.
I think you told me that you've published 3 books. Which one do you think is which one's your bestseller? I'll ask that.
So people usually buy Awakening Spirit, and that it's a thicker book. It's $32. It's a thicker book, and it's big. It's like, it's 8.5 by 11. There's coloring pages in it, and that is the one that I would recommend you get. Accelerated Wicca and Between the Worlds Were Created. They're cheaper. They're like $12-14, so that students could buy just the textbook for that class and not have all of the other stuff in it. Awakening Spirit was my first one, and it has more stuff in it.
Mm-hmm. So I know that our interview is like only minutes, and by the sound of it, the book is very big. So Awakening Spirit, couldn't be explained in only minutes. But if you were to compress it down to maybe 3 to 5 minutes, how would one awaken their spirit? And is everybody different in awakening their spirit? Does it happen differently for different people?
Absolutely. I think everybody does. There's similarities and there differences, in every spiritual development. But what my training focuses on is magically maturing you through the chakra system. Focus on grounding and then connecting, shielding, balancing and invoking, communication through healing, and then psychic matters and connecting with deity. So we just work through the chakras. And what I found is if you have a spiral curriculum and you work through the chakras, it also works you through the sabbats, right? There's 8 sabbats, so there's 7 chakras, but there's actually 8 because there's the transpersonal point, and that kind of starts you all over again. So if you work around the wheel of the year and you work with the chakras, you magically mature yourself as you go, and it just spirals on.
So awakening the spirit has a lot to do with just working with the wheel of the year and embracing the chakras that correspond with the different rhythm tides of the year.
Yeah, it combines it combines all of the energies that you're experiencing within the different seasons to unlock your magical powers as you go.
And everybody has these magical powers. They just have to be tapped, correct?
Well, I don't know about everybody.
Okay.
I mean, witches are witches, right? So I don't know about everybody, but I believe that everybody has the ability to. I just don't know that everybody will, has that much depth. Witches are different than normal people. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. What about you, Monica? What do you think?
How would somebody know if they're different?
Well, they say that you don't become a witch. You just figure out that that's that thing that always has been with you. And you go, oh, that's the label? Okay. Because nobody has witch written on their forehead. Well, I mean, I do. But, you don't come out with a label. Although, there are witch marks and stuff like that. And witches are kind of born into families. And if you look into your family line, you'll find magical people, right? And not everybody.
A lot of people hid that. A lot of families hid that because of the persecution. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you kind of have to explore them yourself and ask questions.
Well, and you have to look at, see, my grandfather was Seventh-day Adventist, but he built a big stone circle in his front yard that was like 4 foot high. And he put a black cauldron in the center of it. And me and my grandmother used to dance around it when I was 5 and 6 years old and throw leaves in it and stuff like that. And it was a game. It was fun. And before my grandfather died, and I had been a witch and he didn't know, I was a priestess at the time. I said, Grandfather, why'd you build that stone circle like that? Because he was Seventh-day Adventist, and he was like, he would read the Bible to me. Solomon's temple was this big. He was a bricklayer. And he said that it just felt like it needed to be there.
Yeah.
So if you look, it might be hidden, but if you look and you think about it and you're like, oh yeah, Grandma did do that weird thing in the garden. Yeah. And she always said you had to do this. And, Mom's got this weird ritual that she does with eggs that she learned from her grandmother. Stuff like that. It's there. You just have to start looking. And I was raised Mormon. And so when I came across witchcraft, I was like, I don't know, am I turning my back on God or whatever? And then I started exploring it. God told me it was okay, by the way. I asked. I was like, is this okay? And he was like, yeah, we got plenty of people. The pagans are going to need you. Go on. And I was like, all righty then. So you just have to start out on the exploration, and then witches can see when other people are witches. And so once you learn about witchcraft, you can look at the people in your family and go, oh, I see it now. But if you don't know witchcraft, you won't see it, because to preserve the mysteries, you have to reveal them often. But if people don't know what the mystery is, they'll never see it.
Thank you. I have another question. What does your tattoo on your forehead represent?
Well, this is the moon, So Mists of Avalon, that's the one. Mists of Avalon came out. I watched the movie. I read the book. My high priest's store, the guy that trained me, I told you about earlier, the name of his store was Mists of Avalon. And so I was big into it. But then the movie came out and they had the tattoo on their forehead. And so I started drawing the tattoo on my forehead during rituals. And then it became a thing that we did at coven meeting. We would all put moons on our forehead and then we'd go into ritual. And then when I met my partner, Dusty, my husband, he's rough and tumble, and his energy, I didn't even have to get around him. My moon would smudge. I draw it on with Maybelline, right? With a blue eyeliner. And my moon would get smudged just being in his presence, you know? And I can deal with that. So I was like, I can't wear my moon around you because it'll smudge. And then people were like, no way, you have to have the moon. Like, you don't look right without the moon. That's you. And so a couple of my coven sisters got together and they were like, we all want to do the moon tattoo. My husband at the time was a tattoo artist. We want to get the moon tattooed on. We're all going to do it together. And I was like, oh God, okay. And so we did it. And I'm glad I did. I love it. It has helped people who felt lonely and like that, you know, you can't tell other people are witches, but you can tell I'm a witch because it's on my forehead. So people come up to me and talk to me and get ministered to. And it's like wearing a priest's collar out in public. So I'm glad I did it. I really love it. I do look weird without it. Sometimes I'll cover it up with makeup and I'm like, that's no good, you know, or put a scarf on my head. Like when I went to my grandfather's funeral, I put a scarf on my head because they didn't know. And that didn't need to be a thing at his funeral. You know, I don't need to call attention to myself. So, but that is what it means. It means I'm a 3rd degree priestess and I like it.
Very cool. I like it too.
Thank you.
I mean, it sounds like you affix that trend to in your circles. So I mean, do you think that there's you know other Wiccans around you that were like, wow, I want that? And do they have to earn that now? Do they have to?
Yeah. Well, you know, you go get a tattoo. Anybody put a tattoo on your forehead, so you know you can do what you want to. But in the ATC, the high priestesses do have a tendency to get the moon, and it has become a thing. And I do like it. I think that it's really cool. I wanted to do like a Facebook page called Sisters of the Moon and get women that had the moon on their forehead, but I don't have bandwidth to do that, you know. So if anybody wants to organize and moderate that kind of thing, y'all can get in touch with me. I'm easy to find on Facebook, Belladonna Laveau, and I'll be all about it. But I think that it has become a trend, and it's a good one. I think it's kind of like the Catholic priest collar. It helps people know who you are and what you're doing, so that those kids that are out there and they feel lonely and persecuted and like they don't have any friends, they can find you. And it's easier to find people now. When it happened, the internet wasn't that big of a thing. You know, like I saw the internet come into being. I know that seems, I'm like, I'm old. But yeah, it's neat that they do that now. And they'll post pictures. This person's getting their 3rd degree and this is them getting their moon, and they make it a ritual, and it's cool.
So it seems like you've been involved in the pagan community for at least a decade, because you said you was in training for a decade, so probably many years before that, which leads me to my next question. Have you met any celebrity witches?
Well, I've been in witchcraft since the 80s, and Janet and Gavin have stayed at the house with us. Wow. Stuart's ashes are in the Hecate shrine. Gypsy Ravish is a close personal friend, and I stay at her house when I'm in Salem. Selena Fox has stayed here with me. We're good friends. Don Lewis is a good personal friend of mine. Oberon Zell is a personal friend of mine. They've all been to the house. I mean, the Mother Church is like it's a place, we're the head of a house. So yes, we have had the privilege and opportunity to do that. And I love Cloud the Rapper. He's one of my favorite people. Spiral Rhythms. I did a facial for Kiki last night. She's awesome. Yeah. And it's fun to get to be able to serve at this level. It's really fun. There's a lot of perks to it. It's not an easy job. There's a lot of difficult things about it, but I love doing it. I love the perks of it. It's an honor to get to serve at this level.
That's cool. Very cool. And I'll be sure to tell Cloud the Pagan Rapper you said what up.
Yes, he's been on my show. I've been on his show.
Cool.
And I'm getting to meet you guys. Y'all are pagan celebrities.
Oh, thanks.
Now you sing and you musical instruments also?
Yeah, I sing and play bass. I wanted to be a rock star when I was young. So I had a record contract at Magical Music Studios, which I thought was funny because that was right before I became a witch. And that didn't really go anywhere, but that was fun. And I love the bass guitar. That's my favorite instrument. I also play, tribal drums around the drum circle. I belly dance.
Are you up for any collaborations with these rappers?
I would love it if I was invited to do anything like that. That would be
What, seriously? Oh
yeah.
We'll have to explore that. So you said that you played the bass. Now, like back in your earlier years, you played the bass. What was the genre of music? Was it like rock and roll, heavy metal? Was it kind of pop, or what kind of genre was it?
I could play For Who the Bell Tolls by Metallica. Yeah, it was heavy metal, Anthrax. The name of our band was Uninvited Guests. So we're a little rough and tumble. Yeah, speed metal, heavy metal.
That's cool. That's really cool.
I was a headbanger.
Well, so any questions for Monica? No.
Go ahead. It's your turn for a question.
All right. So
I'm the tech person, but for a few questions.
Well, I just wanted to make sure. So we're kind of at the end of the interview, but I wanted you to have a chance to be able to say whatever you wanted to say. You have lots of followers, with your church, and new younger generations, beginners, neophytes, novices. They all want to be what you are right now, and I think that they're going to be watching. And do you have like something you wanted to tell them? Time for you to say whatever you want, or to spread your message.
Well, so what I would say is that deity is within you. You already carry it within you. A lot of us are like, can you tell me? Can you tell me? Can you tell me? Can you tell me? But what you need to do is sit down and listen. Prayer is when you talk to deity, and meditation is when deity talks to you. I say in my class that witches sit around and stare at things until it talks to them. And like, if you go sitting with the tree, it takes about 3 days for a tree to see that you're sitting there. So you have to be super patient. But if you sit with a tree, it'll talk to you. If you sit with your spirit, if you sit and listen to deity, they will talk to you. You have to be still and listen and stop running so fast to and fro, trying to find it outside of yourself. It's inside. And that's where you need to go. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're already perfect. You were born perfect. And you exist in a state of perfection. The most important thing about a witch is to accept who they are and to always work on improving yourself. Be a better version of yourself every day, and your magic will blossom.
Very cool. The Lone Wolf Show with Belladonna Laveau. Thank you so much for having a talk and coming on and being interviewed and everything. I hope I didn't ask any hard questions or anything like that.
No, your questions are great.
Good.
Thank you so much for having me. Can I plug my stuff? I would love to plug my stuff.
Absolutely. Yes, please.
Okay, so atcwiccan.org, we talked about that. You can find everything there. WiccanSeminary.edu is the name of our college. And it is a real seminary. You get a real degree. It's sanctioned by the State of Washington Board of Higher Education. Also, springmysteries.com, Spring Mysteries Festival. That's in Easter. We're taking registrations right now. It's online, and it is the least amount you're ever going to pay to come and see the Great Mother and all of the gods, and you should go because the Mother wants to see you. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are awesome. It was a great interview. I really enjoyed it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Mary Part.
Show. Lone Wolf Show.